Squad has always been one of the more immersive experiences out there, but right now it's having a little trouble. So let's talk about that, but first, subscribe, leave a like, drop a comment down below with your thoughts on this, and let's get right to it. So the last few months, we've had pretty steady communication from the devs. We even had a roadmap mapping out what this new year was going to look like for Squad. Most notably, these were things having to do with performance, optimization, gunplay. Now, lately, things seem a little more quiet, but we do know that there is an update on the way at some point because it's going to feature both gunplay changes and Unreal 5.7. Now, we're going to discuss the playtest here in a moment, but I want to reference something else, and that's that I haven't played much Squad lately. Now, that's for several different reasons, including just needed time to myself, needed to take a break, and then needed to try some other games. So I hopped in the other day, and I'm just reminded of things that still feel like a work in progress. It just tends to be small stuff that starts to add up. For example, when you spawn in and everything looks like Play-Doh for a little while, or you look down your scope and your reticle is completely blurred. Hell, even sometimes when it is not blurred, it still looks like a little bit fuzzy in some spots. Maybe it's that explosion in the horizon from artillery or something like that that just looks like a blob. Or maybe it's the hitch when you pull up your magnified scope. It's a lot of little things, and knowing that Squad has always had this immersive or cinematic experience attached to it, it's frustrating because a lot of times you jump in here and you want to feel that again. And while Unreal 5 gives you some of those moments, it's often bookended by little small issues that tend to be jarring for the experience. And then I heard about the open playtest taking place, so I figured I should hop in, set aside some time, and give this a look because I'm hoping to see some of these things remedied to improve the overall experience for the player base. But I still ran into some things that are concerning. For example, you're going to see something disappear. The scope on my rifle the first time I ADS in the playtest just disappeared. And maybe that was my sign that it just wasn't my day. Now, while this is a playtest, maybe not everything's worked out. It's just discouraging to see the same things I see in the live version still happening in a playtest, which I am hoping is the next step for the game. But it's discouraging to spawn in and see the same messed up textures, or see your scope not have clarity, or see an explosion off in the distance where the clouds just look like blobs. And I feel kind of like a jerk because I'm not even talking about gunplay or 5.7 performance or any of that. Now, about this open playtest, there are a couple things worth noting. I don't know that stamina has been adjusted for this playtest, and I believe the suppression is the same type of suppression you get in the live game. Those have not been adjusted that I know of. But there are gunplay changes in this playtest, and I haven't really understood how to verbalize how I felt about it, but I'm a little bit uncertain about it, and I'll try to explain why. I didn't have a ton of confidence in using the weapons, and some of that may just be my lack of familiarity with the new mechanics. But in live gameplay, there were just times where it felt a little off. Something wasn't lining up the way I expected it to. Sometimes I felt like I was overcompensating for the recoil, or I was having to hold longer to see if I could kind of calm down some of the sway by stabilizing, but it just felt a little bit less predictable than what I'm accustomed to. And I was hoping to see more of the opposite, more control, more stability, especially with magnified scopes that would instill more confidence when shooting the weapon. So we've always had to sort of fight a mechanic since the infantry combat overhaul, and I don't know that I'm fighting a mechanic as much as I'm still trying to learn the mechanics, but just something doesn't seem quite right. I don't know if it's drifting or sailing or sway or whatever the technical term is for it, but something's not quite aligning as expected. Then I talked to my friend Mehdi and I said I noticed some drift, and he started to look at it. He utilized this tool that's in game where you can turn on this center line with the dot, and we were kind of looking at where the center of the screen landed with our magnified optics. And he shared some footage that looked probably more distinctive than what I'm sharing, but it did seem like there's more movement in the playtest version of this than in the live version. And he suggested that with movement, it gets exaggerated, more so in the playtest than it does the live, meaning your scope is further off more consistently from the center of the screen. Or at least it feels just like it's drifting a little bit more than maybe we're accustomed to. Now, by no means is this scientific, but it does indicate some form of difference. And something as simple as this, I do think can affect the confidence of a player when actually ADSing and trying to acquire their target. But I'm really stretching my understanding of how some of this works when it comes to values and what I should be seeing and how I can translate that to you guys in a very helpful way. So if you have better ways to talk about it or better indications of what's happening here, I would appreciate anything in the comments to help educate myself and hopefully some of you guys. But all in all, I did notice some form of difference while playing the playtest. But then there's those little things that tend to get in the way. Aiming down the sight, not being able to see your target because the reticle is blurry is certainly something that takes you out of the mode. It distracts you and is jarring from being able to really tell how gunplay operates. Maybe I'm harping on that too much, but it was noticeable. Now, when it comes to performance, I don't know how much I noticed. It did seem to hold frames a little bit better at times, but I did find some small hitches. I also noticed that when I opened up my map via caps lock, I was seeing a huge drop in frames. Now, when it came to performance, I've heard a little bit of a mixed bag from folks. For example, maybe better frames and more consistent frames, but some hitches or some lower server-side performance. But of course, it occurs to me that within this playtest, we're testing two massive things that come with a ton of variables. Gunplay, which I've already said is complex, plus an engine update. And this gives me some pause for concern because I thought we had broken this habit. I thought we were looking at more smaller updates or more focused updates to handle certain things versus something so significant that has all these variables where it might drive the complexity up in terms of how they can fix things if things aren't correct. So looking back, we've had a hotfix for 10.3 and we've had 10.3 released. 10.3 came out about February 17th. This included updates to content like the PLA update, along with some performance improvements, amongst other things, including bug fixes. So we've seen some considerable updates that have made some improvements, but if we go back to the roadmap that I shared earlier, so we're at the end of March, which is the end of the lifespan of this roadmap. And right now, I believe this is what's been delivered so far. The only thing I'm not really certain of is the prone ADS exploit. All of the infantry combat stuff that was expected in February still seems to be a work in progress, as well as the infantry combat related stuff that was scheduled for March. And there's some stuff down here under new ways to play that I'm just not entirely sure what they are beyond community layers, but I don't know what FOB quality of life stands for. Now we can go all the way back to this roadmap that was shared around August. And honestly, I feel like this roadmap was pretty out of date quickly because the community development team started looking at things, I think, pretty differently in terms of what needed to come to squad. And you can see that I have some check marks around things that I know we've received. There may be something else here that I'm missing, but largely this is where it stands. We still haven't seen the Eastern European biome rework, which I think people are excited about, along with updates to territory control. So I wanted to look at the roadmaps because it gives us an indication of where things are supposed to be or where they are going. And obviously we now have a 10.4 update that feels pretty significant in the timeline. Based on the roadmap, I thought we were going to see sort of incremental changes to some of the gunplay, layers of it implemented. I don't know enough about 5.7 to understand why this should be incorporated now or later. I just have concerns when you have such a huge update on the way and I'm in open playtesting, which historically tends to indicate proximity to release date, right? When they shift to open playtesting where everybody can play it, you're thinking it's getting pretty close to where they want to output this into the live version of the game. Now, I hope that this is just an early open playtest to try to build up the population so they can test more parameters on 5.7, gunplay as well, and this is still half-baked because I don't think it's ready. And when I see this, I get concerned because I've seen these large updates before and what they can do to the game, both good and bad. And if I zoom out and I look at the live version of the game, there's still a bunch of issues there that are disruptive to the experience that I talked about earlier. And we are 6 to 7 months out from the release of Unreal 5. And I still see the explosions that I saw in the playtest taking place in the live version of the game. And I realize that's not even the biggest issue that this game probably faces, but sometimes between these larger updates, it's about some of the details, some of the small things that just drive you nuts day to day, because there's a lot of people that play this game every day and they put in a ton of hours and they see some of the same hiccups. You certainly have moments where that immersion hits, the lighting is good, the Unreal 5 really starts to show through, but those are just moments, those are seconds or minutes compared to the length of an actual round of squad. We want to see a round of squad play in its full glory in Unreal 5 without some of the hiccups or visual bugs that we've encountered since the release of Unreal 5. So when I see a massive update on the way and I see a playtest that features some of the same things that I see in live that are distracting or breaking immersion that feel jarring, I get a little bit hesitant and nervous about what we're trying to accomplish. I want to reiterate that I understand some of the things I'm talking about in terms of visual bugs and all that stuff are probably not the larger issues that many of you face. These are just small things that tend to stand out to me as things that break the experience. And if I'm facing them, I'm sure some of you are facing them and get frustrated by them as well. So I hope this video doesn't land incorrectly. The point is that I think there's a lot of little pieces that are broken or not working the way they are intended. And simultaneously, we have this big update on the horizon. And I'm just worried about how all this is going to work together and get us to a point where the game is better. And it just so happens that this week I played the live version and I played the open playtest. I saw some of these issues overlapping and that didn't necessarily calm some of my concern. If you can relate, leave a comment down below. Like the video, of course, and be sure to hit the subscribe button. But hopefully you enjoyed the commentary, the video, and I hope to see you next time.